I have a video coming up covering an exciting piece of hardware, but I wanted to quickly comment on the recent layoffs in the games industry and how these cataclysmic events could actually have a positive impact on the PC hardware community. But first, a brief word from our sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Urcdkeys.com. If you are planning to build your own PC, then you really shouldn't waste money on a full-price Windows key. Instead, you should get an OEM key. What is an OEM key? These keys are bought in bulk at a massive discount, usually by system integrators or by companies like Urcdkeys. Instead of the full price of $200 for a Windows 11 Pro key when you buy directly from Microsoft, you can instead get a Windows 11 Pro OEM key for just over $15 when you use my coupon code C25 over at Urcdkeys.com. You can buy with PayPal or with a credit card, and after purchasing, head to your purchased orders page and copy your key. Then in Windows, type Activate and enter your copied key into the designated field. That's it, your Windows is now activated. You can also get Office 2021 Professional at a massive discount using the same C25 code. Check the links in the description to get your Windows OEM keys today. So in the unlikely event that you haven't been following the recent news, the AAA games industry is going through an unprecedented wave of layoffs, studio closures, and project cancellations. This isn't actually recent, as some seem to think though. Since 2023 till now, in fact, 25,000 jobs were lost, and these happen in major publishers, particularly Microsoft, Sony, EA, Ubisoft, Activision Blizzard, and Warner Brothers. Several studios were shut down, including Arcane Austin, Ready at Dawn, Volition, Pixel Opus, Riot Forge, Free Radical, and now even Romero Games, from the legendary John Romero, co-creator of Wolfenstein 3D, Doom, Hexen, and Quake. The layoffs and closures are not exclusive to the AAA games industry, as some indies are now getting hit as well. So how did we get into this mess? Many online have gone on a virtue signaling crusade, showing how sorry they are for all of these devs getting fired, but honestly, is anyone really sad to see this happening in the AAA games industry when you consider how this industry has been operating and treating its customers in the last few years? After years of ruining beloved franchises with subversive political agendas, releasing minimal viable products that use gamers as beta testers, the shift to software as a service that can be switched off at any given moment if the board of directors isn't happy with the player count or if revenue doesn't hit a certain mark, the disgusting predatory in-game sales that target especially kids and those prone to addiction, and fabricated in-game currencies that force overspending. I honestly can't say I'm sorry to see the implosion of the games industry. I think this is the sort of cleansing that was desperately needed and inevitable. Some will argue that this isn't the fault of developers themselves, it's the studio executives that were responsible for all the horribleness. To some extent that's true, but do you honestly think that the majority of devs in these companies are white knights solely focused on creating great games? Looking at the reactions on Twitter, many of these devs who got sacked seem to be precisely the hires of recent years where diversity and inclusion took precedence over competence and experience. Less competence and less experience leads to worse products. Many of the industry veterans have left to either form their own indie studios or just give up on the toxic games industry altogether. The reality is that no one is forced to work in a toxic environment, and as harsh as this might sound, only weak people stay quiet in the face of bad decisions. If devs are complacent, just looking to get a paycheck at the end of the month, then they can't really be surprised that eventually that level of neglect comes back to bite them in the sass. Are there some devs who genuinely care and who spoke out against corporate greed and are now facing tough times? Sure, but let's not turn a minority into the majority. Of course, management at these companies is ultimately to blame, with unsustainable budgets, over-reliance on external investment, and the glut of high-budget releases that are bland and more focused on political agendas than in being actually fun to play. But game studios aren't made up solely of management, and devs aren't brainless robots, or at least they shouldn't be. The ones who have truly been mistreated here are the gamers. For years, gamers have been the target of predatory monetization and got scammed into buying games supposedly finished that turn out to be unfinished, of not being heard when it comes to the direction that their beloved franchises should have, of getting identity politics forced down their throats when all they want to do is play a freaking game and zone off for a bit. Gamers were supportive of games, giving their time and money to contribute to the success of these games. Studios and publishers, from management to engineers and marketers, on the other hand, were directly involved in turning the games industry into the cesspool that it has become. If you want to be sorry for someone, be sorry for all the gamers that got scammed. These layoffs are too little too late if you ask me. Now, in our niche of PC enthusiasts, I think poor hardware optimizations in games have greatly contributed to the generalized lack of interest in new hardware. It used to be the case that if you spent time researching hardware, geeking out on how to extract the most out of your budget, and then finding that mid-tier GPU and CPU combination that you could overclock and get results that otherwise would require almost double your budget, gave enthusiasts a sense of accomplishment and access to high-end gaming, great graphics and great gaming experiences that they wouldn't have had were they forced to pay for top-tier hardware. But now, you can go through graphics options menus in modern AAA games and tweak dozens of parameters, only to be rewarded with just a few extra FPS in performance. Games are so poorly optimized by devs that gamers are being forced to upgrade to hardware that costs as much as what a full PC used to cost. In many cases, enthusiasts have just given up. Yes, Nvidia and friends are to blame also, but that's the other side of the coin. AAA games developers have become lazy and complacent, showing nothing but neglect for delivering finished products that can run on budget hardware. Whose fault is it? It's everyone's fault in the games industry. And yes, that includes devs, many of whom have championed Unreal Engine 5's terrible utilization of hardware in favor of lazy practices to achieve the same results they would have with proper professional integrity, dedication, and a modicum of panache. Can you really feel sorry to see them getting the sack now? The good news is that I think this implosion in the games industry will force important changes that will ultimately be beneficial for us hardware enthusiasts and of course for gamers in general. The AAA games industry is now under intense scrutiny with calls from every corner for a shift toward more sustainable development with smaller budgets and streamlined direction that will translate into a more competitive environment where devs feel the real impact of bad decisions. Screw up and you get fired. Screw up and your studio gets closed. And guess what? That's how the games industry started out. Games had to be great or the consequences were dire. We need to return to an environment where there are real consequences to putting out unfinished games. Games that don't run on commodity hardware, just minimal viable products that treat gamers like beta testers. While I understand the negative sentiment towards AI-generated content, the rise of AI-based tools for programming and even asset generation and powerful engines now being available to all means that the gap between indie developers and AAA developers is getting narrower than ever. Indie developers now have access to asset creation in quantity and quality that used to be exclusively available to AAA game studios with deep pockets before the advent of AI. And the same applies to code creating and debugging. Indies have no choice but to release finished games. It's their existence that is at stake. They are used to that environment. So it stands to reason that they will thrive in a competitive environment where survival is dictated by the quality of the output. I think indie developers will start releasing ever more ambitious projects that are greater in scope while still maintaining their smaller teams and sustainable budgets, and without forcing gamers into live services or use gamers as beta testers. As for the actual tools that can make this possible and that are already revolutionizing games development, there's Rosebud AI that creates a skeleton of a game from a single prompt, letting indie developers build on top of that. I made a simple game world with just one line prompt. There's also Layer AI that lets developers create assets from simple sketches. There's Promethean AI, which automates the assembly of props, lighting and terrain details and generates entire scenes based on style guidelines. This saves countless hours in 3D modeling, so it enables small teams to create large and visually rich game worlds. There's also in-world AI, which I've covered in the past, that can create AI-driven NPCs. And of course there are agents like ChatGPT or the Claude coding assistant that can massively reduce the time needed to create custom code for games and will also help with debugging. More quality finished games means more gamers wanting to play them, and that means a growing interest in PC hardware. More people buying hardware means more opportunity for disruption and hopefully a return to growth in the PC segment. So these layoffs and studio closures and projects being cancelled might, in an indirect way, be one of the best things that has happened to the hardware enthusiast community in quite some time. This video was made possible by my awesome patrons. By becoming a patron for just a couple of dollars per month, you get exclusive access to the Cortex Discord server, where a welcoming community of enthusiasts gets together every day to talk about gaming and hardware. So become a patron today. Thanks for watching, and until the next one.